In this video, we will look at the Student and Family module. We've already completed our application settings, so we're ready to move forward. Notice it says gradebooks are currently closed and the communication portal is currently closed. Let's go ahead and click on our student and family information. You'll see a menu here up at the top, and we will take a look at our student data in a second here. But notice down below is where you can open and close your gradebooks as you need to, or the communication portal. So we put this here because we want to make sure that your student information is largely in place before you open up the gradebooks for teachers and of course for the communication portal. All right, let's take a look at our student information. Now, your students who were in the system last school year are automatically enrolled in the current school year. So you will need to review that information. You might have students who are no longer attending the school and you can deactivate them. Your alumni should have been removed from the list in the setup process in the application settings, so they will not appear in this area. You can look at your students by grade level or by homeroom. Now, what happened is when you completed the application settings, your students were automatically advanced to the next grade level, and they were automatically dropped into a homeroom based on that grade level. So there might be some additional updating that you need to do, particularly for your homeroom students, making sure that your students are in the correct homeroom. But we kind of give you a jump start to that process. All right, let's click here to view all of our students. You can see the list of students will appear, and we display the active students first, and then as you go down to the bottom of the list, you'll start to see your inactive students. And you can use that checkbox to activate or deactivate students as you need to. So it's easy to make a mistake where you have a student who was in the system, say a couple of years ago, and maybe you deactivated them because they were no longer attending the school, but then they returned to the school. And so that becomes kind of a management issue for you to know who's in the system, who was in the system previously, and you're just making sure that we don't have duplicates. It's probably the biggest mistake you can make as far as your student information is having duplicates of the same student. We never want to do that. Okay, we take a look at our student here. We can see the grade level and we see a homeroom. So you can update the homeroom right on this page. You can deactivate that student, as I mentioned. You can also block your grades, your term grades, from the communication portal on an individual basis. There might come a time when you need to utilize that. I will show you the full record in a second here, but notice you can look at a student classes as well. So if you just want to take a quick look at the classes that a student is enrolled in, you can do that here. Let's go ahead and click on full record. Nothing too extreme in this area here, basically the same information, but I did want to point out that each student is automatically given an ID number and a family ID. So when you're referencing a student or a family, that information becomes important as we kind of look in the database and we drill into a student information. There's also a reference name here for the family. This is kind of a general name that the system creates, and it's just a way for you to reference a family so you know which family you're talking about rather than always using a number. There will come a time when you need to change or update a student's name. It's easy to have a typo in a student's name, so that's something you can do here. Notice that you can move your student to a different family, which might sound strange, but it does happen where students are accidentally placed in the wrong family. That does happen. Also, you have complicated family situations, and sometimes you might have to set up two families and you might be moving a student from one to the other. That does happen. And of course, you can delete a student. Now, the system will stop you from deleting a student if there is a history for that student. So it looks to see how many records are on file. So there are some parameters there. But at the beginning of a school year, you might be adding families and students, and then that family changes their mind, and then you can go in and safely delete a student record. Okay, so that was looking at our student information. You'll want to keep tabs on this and just review this information, activate and deactivate as needed. Now you might be wondering, how do I add a student to the system? And we actually use the family section for this. So I'll go to the main menu, click on families. This has all of your students and families listed. And notice for any family, you can add a student. So this will happen. You have an existing family in the system, and maybe they have a kindergarten student who's coming in new this year, and you can add them to the system here. And of course, up at the top here, you can add a new family entirely. So of course, you'll be using this at the beginning of the school year as new families enroll for the school. So there are only two ways to add students: adding a student to an existing family or adding a new family entirely. Notice that you can deactivate a family. So we try to avoid deleting, as I mentioned. So let's say you have a family that has some history in the system. Maybe they've been here for a couple of years. They move. They're no longer going to be attending the school. And you can deactivate that family. And that will stop all activity for that particular family. And again, they will appear at the bottom of the list. And just like when you're adding students, you want to avoid duplicates. So if you have a family that leaves the school, or for whatever reason they were in the system previously, but now they're no longer active, and then you accidentally add that family again, now we have duplicates. So we want to avoid that. All right, let's take a look at the more information here. You have your contact information for the family, so you can add up to 3 contacts. Here is this family name that I mentioned. You can change that as you need to. It's just an identifier name. And then of course you can delete a family record. And again, it will not let you delete if there is a history on file. But at the beginning of the school year, you might add a family, and then that family changes their mind. They won't be attending the school. Okay, so that was our family list here. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back to the main menu. So if we want to manage our homerooms a little more closely, we can click here, and this is where you can actually look at each grade level and make sure that the students are properly assigned to homerooms. That's one option for you. And then when you're done and everyone's properly in the right homeroom, you can print those lists and you can use them as you need to. So this is your homeroom management here. Now each family is given a unique identifier or a unique code, and they will need those codes to access the communication portal. So when you're ready to invite your families in, you will visit this area here and you will print out these codes and distribute them to your families. It's important that the codes go to the correct family. So there's a security issue there. Each family has their own unique code. Now, after a while, as your parents sign in and your students sign in, you can go in and view those accounts, those login accounts. So you might be able to assist them if they forget their password, or if they're having some kind of issue. You can take a look at their accounts that are in the system, and you can help as needed. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you can delete accounts as you need to without any problem. They can always recreate their account provided that they have their family code. All right, now that we've looked at our student information, we feel good about that, we can go ahead and open up the gradebooks for teachers. And now our teachers can go in, start setting up their gradebooks as they need to. Okay, so that is the family and student module.